Greetings, everybody. It's another episode of All Things Education Official. I'm your host, Mr. Abdullah. LGBTQIA plus studies are the wave, while black students are demeaned in the name of literature. Let's roll that clip.
KTLA 5's John Fenolio is live in Glendale tonight with a look at what fueled the outrage. John.
Sure, Micah, all clear now, but earlier today, that's right, what a mess out here. Hundreds of people swarmed the parking lot here outside the Glendale Unified School District Board meeting. Some of them did get violent, and police arrested 3 people after fights broke out, and some refused police orders to disperse. Those inside the school board meeting were told to shelter in place until the crowds could be cleared out. All this over the inclusion of LGBTQ studies in the classroom. Fists fly outside a Glendale Unified School District Board meeting. Pro and anti-LGBTQ plus protesters clashing over the school board's plan to adopt a resolution designating June as LGBT Pride Month, something they've done since 2019.
We are fighting for the rights of those children who don't want to be indoctrinated.
Those opposed to recognizing LGBTQ plus issues in schools and conservative groups say California's curriculum, which is what Glendale Unified follows, on LGBTQ plus issues is not appropriate for children.
We're talking about children. We're not ready for such choices. It confuses them. And ultimately, these are things that parents should decide.
The superintendent says there is simply no agenda and that a lot of protesters are being fed misinformation.
Our primary focus in our school district is to be inclusive. Every student matters, every family member matters. We do follow in a public system state laws and California Department of Education guidelines. And sometimes that may be of concern to some parents. But at the end of the day, my message is let's reach out to one another.
Advocates say that LGBTQ plus representation is especially important in schools, insisting that being an LGBTQ plus person is not a choice.
We're here, all of us belong in this education. All of us need to be represented.
The folks on the other side say they are not homophobic. Do you believe them?
No, not at all. I've seen their website. I've seen the things that they say.
Carrie Vargas is a Glendale Unified teacher and parent.
No one's handing us a curriculum and saying you have to teach kids to be gay. Like I don't even understand. I don't think they know what they're talking about. And we don't have any prescribed LGBTQ plus curriculum. We just don't leave gay people out of the equation.
In response to anti-LGBTQ plus demonstrators, Glendale Unified has issued a fact sheet and statement spelling out exactly what is taught in the classroom when it comes to recognizing LGBT people.
As you can see, in the Glendale Unified School District in California, there has been an outrage expressed by parents and advocates for, I would say, a more conservative lifestyle to ban Pride Month and or Pride curriculum in the Glendale Unified School District. As you can see, there was a lot of melee, all in the hopes of eliminating any discussions regarding anything dealing with the LGBTQIA plus community. I'm going to save my commentary because I'd like you to juxtapose that to what's actually going on in California as well. I'm not sure if it's a neighboring school district, the Fontana School District. It's in California as well. And they have a different take on how they're going to deal with black children and how they're going to address some of our, what we consider generational scars. Let's roll that clip.
A middle school teacher in the Inland Empire is caught on video using a racial slur in the classroom. The teacher has drawn criticism after the video made rounds online.
KTLA's Shelby Nelson is live in Fontana where she spoke with students. Shelby.
Yeah, Sheriff Court, as you said, that video is really drawing criticism as you hear that teacher repeating those racial slurs in class here at Sequoia Middle School in Fontana. Take a listen.
You asked me how to spell it, so go ahead and pronounce it. Pronounce it after me.
And we spoke to the 8th grade student who allegedly filmed that video on her phone during her English class last week. The teacher repeats the N-word several times. You hear her. A spokesperson with Fontana Unified School District confirms that the exchange between the student and teacher happened during a lesson on a Mark Twain novel. Now, something to keep in mind, this is a short video that we received. It doesn't show all the comments made before that, but that student who filmed it all says that another student asked the teacher how to spell the N-word, and that's where you hear her starting to repeat it in the video.
I was sitting in the back next to my friend, and I was just looking at her like, what is going on? And then she gets in front of the classroom and she starts saying that we're too sensitive about the word. It's an English word, it's in the dictionary, and everybody can say it.
And that student is African American. We are not showing her face or identifying her. Now, students today told us that the teacher was back in the classroom and said she didn't care what the student's mom thinks. The district would not tell us if there has been any disciplinary action. In a statement, though, they did say in part, while we acknowledge that this derogatory language comes from a novel first published in the late 1800s, and that historical context is important to consider when discussing literature, the district does not condone the language that was used in the video or using that language outside of the context of discussing that novel. Now, back out here live, the district does say they are investigating, and coming up a little bit later on at 6, we're going to hear more from that student who was in the classroom at the time that teacher was making those remarks.
All right. Well, you know, I'm gonna take a two-pronged approach to this. First and foremost, I like to say that if you have just started tuning into my channel, you'll know that I am a staunch believer in uplifting and empowering of the foundational Black American community. I believe that all communities should empower themselves and not look for handouts or look for a reason to blame others. But I do recognize and will acknowledge that we do have a white supremacist foundation that this nation was created upon. And as foundational Black Americans, we are undermined in our efforts to do better. But I'd like to say that I would like to put a lot of this on not only the school district, but I like to put a lot of the conflict that foundational Black Americans are suffering on our lack of desire as a collective to create systems for ourselves. Yes, white supremacy exists. We know this. We know that the educational system is not for us, specifically public education. It is created to make us feel inferior. It does nothing but drive us further behind our counterparts in this country. As a matter of fact, it does its absolute best in creating a wedge between us and our past generations. We don't learn about them. We don't know about our own greatness. So I think that this is, at this point, a cry to create our own. As I stated in my last video, somebody actually commented saying that I'm focusing too much on race. Well, as some of our ancestors and some of our elders have said, that race permeates every area of life, as does white supremacy. So I like to say that when you're talking about and juxtaposing the LGBTQIA plus community's fight for inclusion in academic settings, and at this point, I'm going to be very honest with you, their propagation and their push of their agendas into every form of education, the foundational Black American community is languishing behind. And we know that we're not going to be able to get justice by attempting to force ourselves into these situations. It's not going to happen. We don't control these systems. We don't have a strong footing. We may have districts that have Black superintendents, Black principals, Black teachers, but the curriculum does not come from us. The directives and the initiatives do not come from us. We can sit back and say, well, the LGBTQIA plus community, they have more money. Well, why is that? They have more representation. Why is that? Well, we have to understand one very, very important thing. The LGBTQIA plus community is dominated by, you guessed it, white males. Now, You can argue me if you'd like. It doesn't matter. Do your own research. But you and I both know that when it comes to that community, they may have their own sexual orientations, their own decisions on how they're going to live their lives when it comes to their partners and things of that nature. But ultimately, the thing that separates them from the foundational Black American foundational Black American community is the fact that they are white. And they have a certain level of power that allows them to gain access to politicians, to law enforcement, all the things that any other white person will have access to. We can no longer worry about that anymore. We have to be on a trajectory of creating systems that will benefit us. We can look at what they're doing at the Glenfield Unified School District and say, they have unified themselves to say, we want our messages to be pushed into the school. Now, in my elder age, when I was younger, I was a liberal. I thought that was the way to go. I was a Democrat, liberal. Everyone I knew, everyone in my family was a Democrat, liberal. But as I've gotten older, I've learned the truth. The truth is that most foundational Black Americans are social conservatives. We believe in traditional values. That's why in our communities, when we see things that are not in alignment, even though we recognize it as being the norm now, we still look at it with the side eye and say, we know something's not right. And as I've gotten older, I've become more conservative in my thinking. And I do recognize that we've got to teach our children traditional values so that we may survive as a community. As you can see in the second video, the utilization of the N-word was almost pretty much forgiven by the school district under the guise of it's taught in literature. Well, I know that there are tons of texts that speak disparagingly against the LGBTQIA plus community, but by no means would a teacher be allowed at any point to call a homosexual a dyke, a stud, a F word. None of that would not be acceptable. It does not matter what text they found that word in. And as you can see, there's not any outrage on the part of the teachers, whereas you saw in the Glendale Unified School District clip, there were teachers who were promoting, they were parents, they were promoting this agenda or this curriculum or this quote unquote inclusion. I think that we need to truly understand that what our schools are doing now, just in general, we can take it off of color, we can take it off of culture. Our school systems are utilized as a tool to push messages to our children, and they're playing the long game. They are not saying we're going to get them now. They're saying we're going to get them 20 years from now. I have been in education for 20 plus years, and I see the shift from what has occurred from 2000 all the way to 2023. It's a stark difference. It is amazing the things that are allowed to be done in reference to children that would never even have been considered 20 years ago, let alone 50. We need to understand that we are in a struggle to maintain some level of traditional value while respecting the choices of others. And when I say choice of others, I don't just mean the quote unquote marginalized community of the LGBTQIA plus community, which at this juncture, I wouldn't even call them marginalized because you can be canceled for having a negative word. If you even say that you disagree with their lifestyle, you are labeled a homophobe, transphobic, you are canceled, they're trying to get you fired. Well, I'm here to say that I don't have to agree with you to respect you. I have family members that are part of that community. I love them just the same. I don't have to agree with everything they do, but I can love them just the same. And I can respect them just the same. I respect my students who are part of that lifestyle. I respect them wholeheartedly, and I service them to the same degree that I would any other student. But it does not mean I have to agree with your lifestyle. But I do recognize that my community, when I say my community, I mean the Foundational Black American community, is missing all of the benefits that come from being a part of the LGBTQIA plus community. Financial resources, consideration from local entities, governmental entities. We're not considered. As a matter of fact, we're disparaged, we're treated with contempt and disdain, and we're overlooked in all of those areas. If you don't believe me, that's okay. Have a conversation with, an honest conversation with a Black educator. I would say converse with maybe 2 or 3 so you can get a wide range of opinion. But we all know that when it comes to our children, we are given the short end of the stick. Where I currently, in the state that I currently work, there is a curriculum that has been set up and has been passed. As a matter of fact, there was a curriculum in the Glenfield Unified School District that they passed in 2020 that you do not hear about. It's a curriculum strictly about African American studies. I researched, I could not find any semblance of that curriculum being taught on a mass scale. But this prior curriculum, you best believe, not only will it be taught in a particular school, this thing is pushed throughout the entire state, and you best believe it will be taught. Once again, this is Mr. Abdullah, All Things Education Official. You are dismissed.